Your testosterone is shot. It's not a male loneliness crisis, it's a crisis in male vitality. Men have become useless. And let's stop freaking pretending. You're not lonely, you're just tame. It's not a you problem, it's a civilizational issue. We live in a bureaucratic tech machine that has systemically domesticated men. There are forces behind the scenes that are controlling you. You have no idea what they are. The primary cry of our time is to find a way for men to be men again, even if the rules of the game have changed. As a former professor of gender and sexuality with an Ivy League PhD, I have spent years analyzing the exact math of this architecture of control. And I'm telling you, you never stood a chance against it. You've been handed a script that treats your natural drive as toxic, and you complied. The architects of our civilization realize a terrifying truth. A man who is connected to his own vitality cannot be controlled. If a man knows his strength is the only thing standing between survival and chaos, he does not look to a system for permission. He dictates terms. The system didn't wage war on your energy. It just quietly removed the targets. And in doing so, it castrated your biology. For thousands of years, the masculine psyche was an engine that only generated identity through raw external friction. But the modern bureaucratic tech machine eliminated this type of threat. And in doing so, it created a far more lethal sociological trap. The system has convinced you that a good citizen is a quiet, sterile, entirely predictable consumer who never disrupts the machinery. That your heroic impulse is toxic, that your desire to build and protect is harmful. The castration of your spirit did not require a knife, it just required an environment where heroism is no longer necessary. Men today aren't sleeping giants hoping for a heroic awakening. They're just domesticated products with an elevated heart rate. They're staring at a glowing screen, waiting for permission to matter. But you cannot receive permission from a system designed to cage you. You can only receive it from a lineage. We're at a crucial juncture, at a fracture in time. Modern men are an archaeological anomaly. Look at June 6, 1944, D-Day. 19-year-old boys stood in the freezing surf of Normandy. They did not have therapy protocols or identity crisis. They had a shared, inherited duty built into their bones by the fathers who raised them. Contrast that with our modern landscape. For the first time in human history, we have a generation of men who have been entirely raised, socialized, and validated by a world without fathers. You are the orphans of an ongoing cultural desertion. You are the children of a fatherless society, and this is the hidden engine behind your paralysis. Historically, masculinity was an earned, highly deliberate transmission of energy. In ancient Rome, a boy was not considered a man by virtue of his age. He became one through the ritual of the toga virilis, the manly robe, but the industrial and bureaucratic revolutions shattered this continuity. They pulled the father out of the home, out of the workshop, and exiled him to a corporate cubicle miles away. The father became a ghost who returned at night, too exhausted to offer anything but an apology and a paycheck. When you remove the father, the culture begins to rapidly decay. Without a father to anchor the nervous system, the modern man behaves like a psychological child. He seeks refuge in the comforting, infantilizing arms of the bureaucratic machine, the exact system that orphaned him in the first place. As the line goes in Fight Club, we are a generation of men raised by women. And I say this with zero malice towards mothers, of course. They did the impossible, they kept you alive. But a mother can give a boy his heart. Only a father can show him how to wield his sword. The tragic inevitability of your current state is that you're trying to build a fortress out of quicksand. You're looking to internet gurus, algorithmic father figures, and screen printed mentors to teach you how to stand upright. But a video cannot validate your soul. An algorithm cannot pass down an inheritance of character. Until you realize that you cannot download a father, you will remain an infant trapped in a man's frame, forever looking for an authority figure to tell you that you're allowed to be strong. And the system ensures you never look for that strength by building the ultimate pacification mechanism, the tyranny of comfort. The system didn't just castrate your biology and orphan your spirit. It built a gilded cage around your entire nervous system. Today, comfort is not a reward. It is the baseline default of your environment. It is a continuous, invisible anesthetic dripped directly into your daily routine. Modern civilization discovered the ultimate law of human domestication. You do not need to subjugate a man through violence if you can paralyze him through convenience. Look at the matrix of your day-to-day existence. Every natural friction has been systematically scrubbed from your reality. You do not sweat for your food. An app delivers it to your door. You do not fight elements for warmth. A digital thermostat regulates your temperature. You do not face the terrifying risk of human rejection. You scroll through a curated queue of endless digital options. The system has inverted the evolutionary equation. It cured the cold, short panic of real danger and left you drowning in a warm, stagnant pool of total security. This is a chemical truce. You are mistaking a total lack of conflict for actual peace. You tell yourself you're thriving simply because your life is predictable, sterile, and safe. But it is an elaborate trap of metabolic decay. The human spirit is an organ that requires resistance to stay alive. Without an unyielding wall to break against, the muscle of your character doesn't just rest. It atrophies, it dissolves, it turns to dust. The tyranny of comfort is a lethal sociological weapon that turns your own biology against you. The human brain is hardwired to seek the path of least resistance. It is hardwired to save energy, to find the shade, to avoid the storm. The machine simply gave you an environment where the storm never arrives. And in doing so, it trained the raw, alive power right out of your nervous system. You have been systematically pacified by a fancy stagnation that asks absolutely nothing of your spirit. You're trading your genetic drive, your ancestral inheritance, and your primal significance for a comfortable, frictionless routine. You aren't a warrior resting between battles. You're a prisoner who fell in love with the softness of the mattress inside his cell. You're sitting completely still, wrapped in a blanket of convenience, silently suffocating in a world that doesn't care if you exist. And the cage did not require iron bars. It just required a screen, a steady temperature, and your total compliance. Right now, you're complying perfectly, but complying is a choice, and there is a blueprint to break the cage. To reclaim your vitality, you must understand a fundamental law of psychological warfare. The system does not fear your anger. It does not fear your online rants or your quiet resentment. It fears your autonomy. If you want to break the architecture of domestication, you have to stop trying to be a well-adjusted product of a sick environment. You have to become dangerous to the system again. And that requires you to partake in the ultimate act of rebellion. You must become the hero of your own life. This is absolutely not self-care. It is tactical mobilization. And it does not happen in a fantasy. It does not happen in a video game sandbox or in a distant dream of being great one day. It happens right now, on a Tuesday morning at 6 a.m., when the alarm is ringing and absolutely no one is watching. Being the hero of your own life means establishing immediate, localized authorship over your own baseline impulses. It means looking at a mundane, insignificant day and choosing honor, dignity, and radical responsibility. Not for the applause of a system that wants you sedated, not for the validation of an audience, not for women or people you're trying to impress, but for yourself. Being a hero in your own life doesn't look like climbing Mount Everest, buying the most expensive car, attempting to save the world like an Indiana Jones wannabe. It looks like the quiet execution of localized order. It is keeping your word to yourself when you're completely alone. It is taking absolute accountability for a failure before anyone points a finger. It is the man waking up at 3 a.m. to quietly shoulder the screaming chaos of an infant so his territory does not rot. That is heroism. That is the only way to reclaim your aliveness, to reconnect to your innate masculine vitality. This leads to the second way to start rebelling against domestication, and that has to do with the immediate termination of your need for permission to be a man. You must stop waiting for a ghost to show up and tell you how to be a man. You must stop looking to a sterile, bureaucratic culture to validate your strength, your timeline, and your ambition. A man who waits for the system to tell him he's allowed to matter will die in the waiting room. Every time you choose the digital shortcut, every time you choose the virtual escape, the video game, or the frictionless routine, you're signing a treaty with your own jailer. You're handing over your autonomy, pleading with a screen to give you a simulated sense of achievement because you're too terrified to take it in the real world. You must intentionally starve the simulated versions of yourself so that the real biological man has no choice but to wake up. Let us look at the ledger with absolute clarity. The system didn't just crawl into your room and steal your vitality while you were sleeping. You handed it over. You treated it piece by piece for a comfortable cage and a guaranteed temperature. If you want it back, you have to stop choosing to be safe. You have to stop waiting for someone else to give you agency. The castration of your spirit ends the exact second you decide that the burden of responsibility, meaning, and heroism is preferable to the slow, agonizing horror of decay. And this allows us to touch on the final element of your war against society's castration, which is rooted in the concept of attention in the way that the 20th century philosopher Simone Weil thought of it. What she calls attention is not focus. It's not productivity. It's a weapon of absolute non-compliance. The currency of the modern bureaucratic tech machine is your distraction. The system thrives by keeping your focus fragmented, superficial, and fluid. It feeds you an endless stream of cheap dopamine, short-form stimulation, and synthetic outrage. Why? Because a man who cannot anchor his mind cannot anchor his life. A fragmented mind is an infinitely manageable mind. Your rebellion requires you to take your attention back by force. You must stop scattering your awareness across the digital landscape, and you must learn to give absolute uncompromised attention to something real. Something that you choose willingly, something that has weight, something that demands your complete unmixed presence. This doesn't mean passively staring at a screen. It means throwing the entirety of your consciousness into a singular, difficult objective. When you sit down to master a complex skill, when you look into the eyes of your child and listen without looking at a device, when you spend 2 hours working with your hands against an unyielding physical craft until your mind stops wandering and submits to the present moment, you are committing an act of operational sabotage. You're refusing to let the machine monetize your consciousness. You're pulling your soul out of the stagnant pool of comfort and superficiality and driving it like a wedge into reality. Do not deceive yourself. This is an agonizing discipline. Your brain has been conditioned to crave the constant, flickering static of the simulation, to sit still, to force your focus onto a single deep, challenging reality will feel like an existential winter. Your mind will scream for the exit sign. It will beg for the frictionless escape. But that friction is exactly where your vitality, your aliveness is forged. Attention is the mechanism that converts raw time into meaningful character. It is the ultimate expression of your agency. The machines want you spread out, shallow, and numb. Your rebellion is to go narrow, deep, and fiercely alive. Stop renting your awareness to a system that wants you sedated. Pick up something heavy, look it dead in the eye, and give it your absolute uncompromised attention. Hey, thank you for watching. If what I'm sharing resonates with you, make sure you hit subscribe to be notified when new videos are released. And if you want to go deeper, I share longer reflections, frameworks, and updates in my newsletter. The link is below. This channel is a growing body of work about restoring aliveness in a world that quietly trains you to live at a distance from your own life.